That's fine.
I'm just gonna pull up her presentation because she sent it to me a month ago.
From the fourth, I mean, from.
Back up there and start me off, right?
What's that?
Just this right here, does it find the speaker?
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Looks for it.
Yeah, the camera looks for where the audio is coming from.
Okay.
See how, like,
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a spot.
There.
Yeah. Right, so.
Somebody else's,
you know,
Israel.
Okay, so yeah, confused.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just like 80 minutes, but I would say 20 minutes, hour and a half.
Hey. Oh. Seven, eight.
Wouldn't matter, we don't have, we don't have it patched.
I mean, we already have. Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah. No. Well, for this,
Okay.
in the future, we'll just have people bring their presentations on a flash drive.
Oh,
He emailed me.
Oh, I see.
Specifically 3 weeks ago, so. Kind of an edge case.
Yeah, just email.
Right. So, I said, I already have. But, you know,
Where is that? At your place?
Yeah.
Oh, it's frozen.
It's frozen,
Okay,
right.
so you have to thaw it somehow.
Well, you know, you can cook it frozen. It just takes it out a little bit longer. It's hours.
Okay. Can you,
I could take out and start thawing it. Right,
I was gonna say, can you
right.
put the whole pan into the oven?
Yeah,
Okay.
all you have to do is just bit it. There's two of them. They're not gonna bend it.
So did you sign into your own drive?
Yeah, just, but that's what I got the file. Yeah.
This is where we have.
Like that.
Oh, we got change.
These 50 hot dogs, and we're gonna have, the smoke issue.
So we have to buy it.
Jerry sent me some pictures he wanted up on rotation, so. I'll get that going.
Okay.
Did I give you any?
Okay, oh, what?
Oh, for sure, it's 95.
Yeah.
6.
Yeah, keep it central.
I wanna try to recruit some of the.
Okay, yeah, I'll get another one.
Raw out the bed at 5:30 or something.
Myself. Yeah.
Soon it might be nice to then have you
Do we need any, that
Go back down.
Well, Tim sure, yeah.
No, I mean. Or is it?
Maybe our people are,
We didn't have. You're on?
There he goes.
but
Need any?
I know Christie, John.
Please. Very good. Everyone, nice to see you.
All right. He's the bishop.
Well, no, I was trying to help or understand how to. He'll come out.
You know, but now. So sometimes.
Sure, I don't have to worry about you guys. I have probably have some. But I have to make sure.
I was trying to fix up. I didn't know you were not.
Good. And yeah, I have two of those frozen salad. Could we use them for?
I asked, I told Tim that.
Well,
All of this as. The ingredients are. I need.
Charlie, I remember some of these people.
Get everything. I need to know, he was gonna talk to. Go to buy.
Okay, my phone going. Well, we'll call. That's not.
Right here.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
I got more. There's always some here.
You don't. I don't care. Okay, good. So, yeah, and also have part. Yeah, or easier place, now you don't have to buy. You don't have to haul it. So, yeah, so they do have. Right, and Gordon is right there on that. It becomes sawmill and chance. 30. Yeah.
That's tough. I don't know, that's right. Those are across the street.
Yeah, it gets on the south side, the left side, if you're going west, going toward the left side.
That's a sawmill, but.
Right, yeah, west of the sawmill, going down the hill. But let's have the first street. First time. Well, it's actually, I got the credit card. Oh, yeah. Can we do tomorrow? I can go now and that. I know. Michael, I think. Right, or welcome dinner, like, pretty.
Do it, because there's that stuff. When did you leave?
Ursula, Lisa Federico. Jim, I'm gonna ask Jim to find one. Perfect. Well, I'll be, you know, that's a lot very fast. Control that.
Yeah, as soon as I got, I'll give you a call there. Thank you. Yeah. How far away?
Close to downtown.
Okay. Okay. So. Okay, so you just get on 160. Right, and I'm coming. I'm glad you can make it. That's what I mean, that's where I. So it's the only thing. So the one I'm talking to you.
Right now.
Okay.
Let's see.
Better on the phone. Oh, do you have your phone?
Sure.
Just give me a phone.
Yeah, John. It's been over there.
Gonna find your address. 5, 6. Yeah,
That's, full fledged.
Very kind.
It is very. A lot of years.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll get it.
Oh, yeah.
My name on that thing. Yeah, for your contact.
How do you do that? Add? Is that how you do it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's today.
I would have done it all now.
Yeah.
And then,
I have.
South Carolina.
So that's 5 years.
Right now.
Yeah.
It's some stuff.
That's.
It's like my.
So you don't mind?
And, you know, she paid the same interest. Yeah. And they got,
Nothing.
for this is what about, about the people and the country and stuff like that.
I don't mean to ring you. I wanted to add to.
I was telling. Every tried to. Fighting for you. Sometimes he goes, runs downstairs, he's going on his desk and then he does And I saw some hard facts. Not here. I saw her.
Well, that's not.
Yeah. George and I go into
They got his name.
Okay.
They've asked you everything.
You?
If it's okay with you.
Oh, you need to meet?
It's like.
Yeah, right.
Not right now.
Well, it was hotter inside.
Yeah.
What do we have?
Hey,
Oh,
well.
okay.
This weather. Another. Yeah.
All right, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started.
The meeting start. Yes, yeah, yes.
Right, in part, there you go.
Okay, as a reminder, please silence your cell phones. For guests and visitors, my name is Emily Vianda. I'm the president nominee who is pinch hitting today of this club. And I'd like to welcome you all to the 25th meeting of the 50th year, the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. So we'll have an invocation today by person unknown.
George, yes.
Is he here?
Is that the Reverend?
He went outside. Jennifer.
Carries an extra.
The Reverend Jerry Katz.
Okay.
else.
Pick up a new profession.
Well, do we have any visitors or guests today? I'm looking around the room. And
We have, I'll do it from over here. We have our speaker, Ursula Allen. Jerry Katz left and left his wife here, Mercy.
There's Jerry Katz.
He's back. Oh.
Jerry.
And Michelle.
The Almighty is making part of us. So we'll see.
Let's wait.
Just doing Rotary work. You've had a chance to put service amongst before self. Just a minute.
Okay. I think it's good.
Are you all in your right minds now? Are you ready? Well, then bow your heads with me while we pray. Creator and sustainer of all that is or ever will be, accept our thanks for this day and all of its blessings. We ask that you guide and direct our club, its leaders, and our actions. Grant that each of us may feel our responsibility to Rotary, to our community, to our country, and indeed to all countries and peoples. Bless our fellowship today, and bless this food to the nourishment of our bodies. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Now I would like to invite up anyone who has announcements.
Yeah, that's you.
All right, then we'll not go.
I just wanted to say that I think, where's Scott Lawrence? Is he leaving?
I'm right here.
Oh, there he is. I wanted to stand up there. He is going to be the chairman of our Night at the Races next year, so. Oh, yeah, thank you. Also, next month, July 23rd, we have a guest speaker. You all know the Arthur James Cancer Center. Well, Arthur James' son and grandson will be here to speak about Arthur James and how the hospital was started, and also how Arthur G. James and his family immigrated to America and settled in Belmont County, Ohio, in a small town right outside of St. Clairsville that doesn't even exist anymore. So they'll have a great talk about that and slides with pictures. So please show up on the 23rd. Thanks. Yes.
The Mongolians now have arrived, and this is our turn this week to host them. We will get them tomorrow, Thursday, and if you all would like to meet them and spend a little time with them, both Saturday and Sunday, we're leaving the idea that you can meet with them. Saturday, we have a rah-rah, and that's going to be at Kittredge Place. And there's going to be a full program Saturday, which will entail a peace initiative talk by Tom Carlisi, a presentation by the Mongolians, and a meal at the evening, of which the Mongolians will be preparing some food for us. It'll be a mixture of American and Mongolian food. So if you do want, give me a call, or I'll be up here. I also have a handout. If you want to have a understanding of who is coming, I've got a handout over there, and then I've got the schedule right here. We've got, Jim Allen's gonna be one of the host families. Jim Miller's gonna be another host family, and Dave Kittredge is gonna be the third.
I have two.
Huh?
I'm gonna have two as well.
Oh, you are? Well,
Rock News are gone.
they're kind of visitors. Yeah, but they'll be along with the group, but they're officially independent of the group.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hi there. I probably don't need this. On your table is the sign up for the Fourth of July picnic, 9 days. We were about 75% full. We only need 4 or 5 more people to sign up. Week from Friday, and we will have a jolly good time. Mike, you're up.
All right. All right. It could be down as well. Try not to fall. All right, we have a presentation today. 34th Annual Donald G. Moulton Memorial Rotary Golf Outings. This year's, we have, this memorial has an honoree this year that we did not have last year. And just to name a few of the honorees we've had in the past, we have DJ Stone, Anthony Sahicek, Bill Wentz, David Greenlee, just to name a few. This year's memorial honoree is Steve Popper. And our winner is none other than Dick Lillard. He can haul this trophy around. You might get John to help you with it.
I know he's got a lot of experience in lifting that
Yeah,
trophy.
John's got his name on there a few times, so congratulations, Jim.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Here's your trophy.
Oh, wow.
That's for you to keep this, the rotating trophy. And names all the past winners are on there. Yours is at the very top.
What did he win?
Wonderful.
What did he shoot? What's that?
He was the low net. So
I think you got to beat John.
you got a good job. Played with it, so congratulations, thank you.
Just very quickly, I think some of you know that Barb and Courtney Chapman recently moved into Wesley Glen. Well, Courtney recently has had some major health problems. In fact, he had his left leg amputated below the knee due to circulation problems. He's currently in rehabilitation there. I bought along the card, and I was wondering if I passed it around, if all of you could sign it, sending our best wishes. I'm sure you'll appreciate it. You know, he's been such a great member of our club for so many years. Thank you.
then I would like to invite our sergeant up. It's you. Or we can wing it.
That's Jerry again.
Get your money out.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, we're looking for somebody to carry the pot. Now, who would that be? It probably would be you, Dick, because you got some money, so you put some of it back in, if you will. Looking for happy dollars. Who's happy today? There we are. Jeff.
Earlier this month, my son graduated from Purdue with his materials science, engineering degree. He's fully employed in Kokomo, Indiana, off the payroll. We celebrated with Rose Help and took the kids to London and Paris. Had a wonderful time over there. It was great. So good to be back, but we had fun.
We're happy it was Purdue because we can generally beat them. John.
I'm happy to announce that my daughter got married 2 weeks ago. And she married a fellow who was a relative of George Norris myself. And she was.
And-
Is what's more. And that got her off my payroll.
There you go. The best news is they're still married.
So far.
Shirley,
So my oldest granddaughter is in London, England right now, and she's rowing in the Henley that I talked about. Quite an honor for Tubbs crew team. That's the first time they've ever done that. So my daughter and son-in-law and her sister are all going to watch and tour London. So it's so happy. Anyway, that's what I'm happy about.
okay, that's great. Now, the best news there is they really did shut down the Tower of London. Yes, back in the back.
Happy to have just spent a week in Portugal, went to a friend's son's destination wedding. And happy the road told us what to see and do.
Very good. Very good. You visited Porto,
Yeah, 3 days.
3 days in Porto, and you're not drunk?
Well,
Some of the best port in the world comes from Porto. Okay. Yes.
I'm happy that NGSC is here. I've had a 4 weeks trying to get things set out. And this weekend, we're going to have some people on Rah-Rah. There's a Peter, Paul and Mary concert Sunday, and Sunday, is it Sunday or Saturday?
It must be Sunday.
Sunday, Peter, Paul, Mary.
It's yes, at 4 p.m. at the Mennonite Church.
So you get in touch with us, we'll have you a seat saved and all like that. It is gonna be very busy, so we'd like you to get there a little early too.
Okay. Those of you who can attend, please do, because you know that was a good group. Yes, Peggy.
I've told you about our grandson, Captain Nolan Ryan Murgatroyd, finished his training in Las Vegas. He will now be a trainer's trainer for missiles and artillery with the U.S. Air Force.
Perfect. Thank you. That's wonderful. Any other happy dollars? Well, we haven't collected enough dollars, so we'll have to do some more. If you volunteered at the Arts Festival for the Rotary Food Tent, raise your hand. If you're sitting at a table with somebody's hand raised, put in $1. If you have signed up for the family picnic, raise your hand. You know the drill. Put in another $1. Okay, so today, whoops, I did it. Just a minute, Steve's coming.
I just.
Probably an extra charge on your bill, Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Gonna need a discount.
Thank you. If I'd have known it was that simple, I would have still had to come up. Okay, so this day in history. This is a particularly a good day in history because in 1993, I'm sure most of you will remember this. Both Canada and Turkey elected female heads of government for the very first time. So if you're a female, put in $1. In 1950, the Korean War starts as North invaded South. If you've ever ridden in a Kia, a Renault, or a Hyundai, put in $1. In 1947, on this date, the Diary of Anne Frank is published. If you've ever made a diary entry, put in $1. And for our representative historian of all things, Mr. Don Motley, Virginia on this date becomes the 10th state to ratify the US Constitution. Now, they did not do that without a lot of turmoil and without a lot of discussion, because in their crowd was James Madison. He was for it. Patrick Henry was against it. Why was he against it? Pay attention. He feared that it granted too much power to the federal government at the expense of the states. So if you have ever been in Virginia or eaten ham, put in $1. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot my joke. I got a joke for you. Yes.
Well, I wasn't gonna do it as a happy dollar, but instead as a celebratory several dollars. At the old rule of 10 cents a year, I'm putting in $8.70, plus I'm rounding up to cover the rest.
And that goes.
My 88 spin around the sun.
Congratulations, Dollar. I know you've enjoyed every year of it, and that money goes to the foundation. So I did some research. Row, it's not working? That, it is. Did you break it? Now it's working?
Yeah.
Row, no, was that off all of you? Oh, okay. I did a little research over the weekend and found out that the price of a slice of apple pie in Jamaica is $2.50. But in the Bahamas, it's $3 in the Bahamas. Those are the pie rates of the Caribbean.
Oh,
If you groaned, put in $1.
All right, so has the microphone off.
Now, we'll have our speaker for today. And I would like to invite Jen Allen up to introduce her.
Yeah, most of you know my first wife, Ursula. And she is the speaker today, and I just would like to, she's gonna tell you about her early years, which was started in World War II in Germany. I will tell you a few seconds about her later years. We've been married for 63 years. She is, tells people, and I think accurately, she's had 22 kitchens, which is evidence for the fact that we've moved quite often. In all those moves, she said, most of them were initiated by me, and she managed to handle those pretty well, and at the same time, raise 3 children, fix all the meals, clean the house, work full-time, and finish her college education in about 5 different colleges. She's an amazing person. She taught elementary school in North Baltimore, Ohio, in Cleveland, in Columbus, in the Czech Republic, in Houston, in Southwest Virginia, and again in Columbus. She has legion of friends and family, and she's my hero. And I would like to quote the well-known to you drummer for the band, Devon Helms, which goes up Cripple Creek, she sends me. If I spring a leak, she mends me. I don't have to speak, she defends me. She's my hero. And I'll give you Ursula Allen.
Well, I guess I have to hold it up here in order for you to hear me. Okay, this started out I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago when the group in my church said, well, Ursula, don't just tell her, tell all of us. So I thought there might be 9 people and they might be interested. It turned out that they made it into a dinner and I got this PowerPoint ready, and I spent most of my life trying to be as American as quickly as I could and speak no German and get rid of all of those feelings that you have being German. And here I am standing here telling you about what it was like to come to America as a youngster and to become as American as quickly as I could. So it has to start with my father. This is a picture of my father when he was 1 year old. His name was Paul Kindling, Kindling, so that was my last name. My first name is Ursula. And then I have two names from my aunts, Kate, which was an aunt, and Hildegard. So it's Ursula Hildegard Kate Kindling. And when I became Mrs. James Allen, I didn't tell anybody my name was Ursula. It hasn't been until the movie that was when the witch Ursula became famous in the Disney film that now everybody can say Ursula, and I don't mind telling them that's what it is. So this is a picture of my grandmother and grandfather and my mother's family. There you can see Hildegard, Kate, and Tante Zilla, and then her three brothers, two of whom died in the war. This is my mother and my father, who I'm going to go a little bit, who met in Friedrichshafen. Friedrichshafen is way down in the south part of Germany, close to Switzerland. And they did that because my grandmother, who you saw in the picture, sent my mother to her sister to learn how to keep house. Because my mother had learned bookkeeping and my grandmother didn't think that was enough. So she went to Friedrichshafen and was there with her sister and her children and met my father, who was working at the same factory or the same airship building place that my uncle, my aunt's husband, worked. So that's how they met. And I'm going back to how, this is before they were married. This was 24. And then we move on to this part of his life. He was an aeronautical engineer, my father, and he worked with Goodyear. And Goodyear is a company in Akron that still exists. They mostly make tires now instead of airships. But in that time, that's why he was there, because he was an aeronautical engineer and they had Germans that they hired to come here. This is a letter that says, the bearer of this letter, we don't have to read it all. Essentially, they say that there were 24 Germans that came to America in 1924 and started to build the airships that the Navy used, mostly, Jim, is that right?
Yeah.
And they wanted my father to attend that too. He was still in Germany working there. And my father didn't want to go unless he could bring his whole family. And they brag on about how these German people actually became good American citizens and bought homes. And if they wanted to have my father come, then they should have him come too. So my parents came in 31. And I went too fast. In 31, they were here for like 4 years, from 31 to 35. And during that time, they have pictures of them. They have a car. There's a picture of my mother riding a horse. They lived in Fairlawn, Ohio, which is up by Cleveland. Their daughter went to kindergarten in America. The son that my mother had in Germany came with them when they came together. So my parents and two children lived in Akron, Ohio, or Fairlawn, for those 4 years. And then the story changes, but essentially my father used to say that there was no more helium. And so they said to the engineers that at least helium wasn't ready available, I should say. They said to the German engineers, we will pay your way back to Germany if you want to go, or you can stay here and take your wage cut and do something different. Well, my father decided to go back. Of course, there wasn't very good timing, as you can imagine. Of course, it gets worse, but anyway, they went back in 35. And for the first 2 years, they worked in Hamburg in Germany as some kind of a shipbuilding place where they had lots of wind, because the wind for the sails and wind for the whatever. But it wasn't very challenging for my father, so somebody that was from the German government wrote a letter saying, would my father like to apply to work for the German Air Ministry, the Luftwaffe? So in 37, they moved to Berlin. And then, as you all know, what happened during all those years, there are 3 more children born. Trump would like us to have more now, right? So I was born in, my sister was born in 38. I was born in 41. My brother's born in 42. And I was born in Berlin, and so were the other 2. And we lived there until 1943, when my father was at the desk working on draftsman and design engineering and so forth most of the time. But this is one of the things that he worked on. There's a book called The Helicopters of the Third Reich. And there's a picture of my dad in that book because he worked on helicopters and designing them. So in my home, there was never much conversation about what the war was all about. But I have a feeling that somebody knew something. And of course, they could see things happening around them in 37, they must have. We went to a place called Nordhausen, which was where my father was from when he was a child. It's in the Harz Mountains. And it's out of the way. Of course, we didn't know how much it wasn't out of the way, but my father stayed in Berlin, and the family and my mother moved to his sister's home, which was also this home that my father's family owned since 18 something or other. So in Hamburg, of course, I was very young. I was only 2, 2.5, 3, so I don't remember much at all about Hamburg. But my older brother and sister did, have that experience because they were teenagers. So some of them were sent away to different schools. Some of them tried to help my mother, which they did. Well, Nordhausen was bombed in 44, in April 44. 45, was it already 45? Okay. And we walked out of this mess. And we walked for maybe, right now, I used to say it maybe 3 miles or something like that. It wasn't that far until we found a place. They must have talked about this, right? The 2 of them, in order to have these plans, because they had these plans or something. We went to a little town called Nienburg. And I have it backwards, don't I? Because anyway, it doesn't matter. And we were in what they call a Schwebergarten, which is a little garden that people have in back of their houses or someplace in the woods, and 4 or 5 people together have these different gardens. And so we slept there on the ground that one night, and then somehow our father, who may have been captured by that point by the British or given himself up to the British because he spoke good English and so forth. So my father picked us up in some kind of a car or a van or a Citroen, as he calls it, and drove us to a town called Nienburg. I think the first place was Leipzig, right? Or Leimbach. Then we went to Nienburg. Okay. I didn't think I'd be nervous anymore, but since I don't know any of you, I still feel a little bit. And so, and I was young, right? So some of these things are strange. Anyway, we got to Nienburg and he dropped us off and he went back with whoever he was with and he was gone. And my mother and the 5 of us lived in one room for 72 days until the war was over. During that time, my mother was very sick, mentally, I think more than anything, probably just nervous and stressed, etc. So she was often lying on the sofa that was there, and her head was wrapped in bandages that went around her head, and her hands were wrapped with gauze because she had eczema. So she was not much help, but my oldest sister, who at that time in 45 she was born in 38. Honeygreen was born in 28, Lima was born in 30, so they were teenagers and able to do these things and help take care of us. I know that one time my brother who worked at some farm that he was able to help, people did things like they do today in the wars, right? They find places where they can go and help and work. So he worked at a farm and he came home and he had an egg with him. And of course he stole that egg. And that was bad stuff. And weren't supposed to do that, right? But I do think we ate it. Another part of that deal was that my mother had somehow or other found a 50-pound bag of dried peas. And we didn't have silverware, so I remember the peas wouldn't stay on the fork. And, I was young, and so one of my other stories that I wrote at one time was called Stuck in a Bucket. And I remember that I made this up from the fact that my youngest brother, my oldest sister was washing the floor, mopping the floor. And my youngest brother got in the bucket. And of course, he was stuck there, right? He was sitting in it and his feet were on one side and his hands on the other, and you can't get out. And I do feel that lots of times in bad times in the world, we're stuck in those buckets and we do things that we have to do in order to live, right? And feed your families. So, well, as I said, my father was captured by the British, and lo and behold, one day my sister is combing her hair in front of a mirror, and she looks out the window and she hears my father whistling. There was a family whistle. I can't whistle. I can't demonstrate, but anyway, he was there and he picked us up. I mean, it's just incredible. How did that happen, right? He was able to get somebody to come and get us, and we all piled into the car, and there were lots of other people, and another gas tank that went with it, and some other people, I don't know, and he drove us to Kiel. And the map that I showed you earlier, we want to go all the way back, but we don't have to. The map that was in Kiel is way in the northern part, up by the North Sea, which was where my grandparents lived. And that was the story that they were supposed to go. If you get out, you go to Kiel, and it's probably in the right zone, it's not in the Russian zone. So you're going to be okay. So we went to this house, which was, I have to brag about my parents because they must have been good people, because so many people did so many things for us. That is sort of amazing, right? And this was a friend of theirs who had this cottage in the woods called Waldfrieden, which translated is freedom in the woods. And in this home, there were 5 families. And we were in the basement. However, it was great. Okay, it was great. I mean, it was life again, right? There were woods and there was a pond and there was school. I went to school in Emsenhagen. Now I think there's one teacher for how many kids? A whole bunch. And I think I am, you said there's a laser. Yeah. I think that might be me right there. This again about my father. We got there in 45 to Emsenhagen or to the Waldfrieden, and we lived there for 4 years. And my dad worked for the government, I think, right? For the British for maybe 3 years, and then again he didn't have any work to do. And he was a design engineer, so it was very difficult for him. I don't know how his mental health was at the time, but we didn't see much of him because most of the time he was gone. So there was no work for him. And then the 2 years, there was one time when they said that he could go to a Quonset hut. You all know what that is. And it was filled with flower crocks. I don't know what you call it, flower pot. That was, no, now it went off. Is that better?
Should be a button.
Holding it down.
Did that work now? Yeah. Okay. And they said he could take the little nub out of the bottom of a flower pot, and punch it out, and he would get a penny for that. And the Quonset hut was filled Quonset hut was filled with those. I can yell probably just as loud as the microphone. So he was pretty, I know, I don't,
It might just be dying.
might be. I'll keep talking. Is that all right? All right. So in 1950, because he had no work and because there was no engineering to do in Germany, because they couldn't rearm or work on those kinds of things again, he had to find something else to do. And lo and behold, the people that they had friends with in America from 1930 paid for us to come. We had one sponsor for the youngest three, another sponsor for the oldest two, another sponsor for the mother and father, and somebody else that had us in there. This is, the first picture was a picture taken of us before we got onto the boat. Okay. The second picture was our train had to stop, and some people, because everybody was sad that we were leaving and crying and so forth, they drove to the next station where the train stopped, and they met them again and brought them flowers and stuff like that. So my mother's in some tears and so forth. And there we are. Now, this is my passport picture. And this is the boat that we came on. And it was the MSS Batory, which was a Polish ship. And you can see our names are on here: Ursula, Margaret, Plahemut, Anigate, Mariana. And we were in what they called storage or something, but it was still pretty nice. I mean, hey, you know, we had a bed and they fed us. My mother was in her, I mean, she couldn't have been any happier for those few days because she didn't have to do anything. There was breakfast and lunch and supper. And my youngest brother and I had pretty much free reign of the ship, right? I mean, we could walk all over the place and up the steps and down again, etc. Was it battery?
Mm-hmm.
Does it work now? Yes. Okay. And here we are on the boat again. My mother was mostly in the chair there, sitting there, and my father's kind of, you know, I think, looking around. And this is my older brother and my sister, and I think it's just such a classic picture. They don't look like they're in trouble at all, do they? They look pretty well off, and there's New York in the background. We took a bus from New York to Doylestown, Ohio. I don't know if any of you know where that is, but it's not far from Wadsworth, Ohio. And this is where one of the sponsors that had this dog, and that's we called him Uncle Hans and Tante Ella, and they were German, of course, so they spoke German. And turns out that Tante Ella was Jim's nursery school teacher. So it's a small world, right? This is the picture of another sponsor. His name was Uncle Howard. They aren't related, neither one of them, but he did the sponsoring for the three youngest children. He lived in Connecticut, and the reason that he came into the family was that he was visiting my father's sister, Aunt Annie, who was an opera singer, and Uncle Howard played the violin, and so they became good friends. They did not get married, and he came back to America, and he was one of the sponsors. This is a picture of the Germany family finds a new home. We lived with this family from August. We got here in August. We lived with them until November. And it was another thing that was hard for my mother. You know, she had all these children and somebody else was telling her what to do, right? I mean, all the women in here will know what that feels like, right? So it couldn't have been easy for her. And somehow or other, we found a house in Wadsworth, which is where Jim's family was. And this house in Wadsworth had not been lived in since the Depression. And they had put everything they ever owned back into the house. And they'd started to renovate it, but it stopped because of Depression. So there were no walls. There was no working plumbing. There was, but we were on our own. Yay. My mother was happy. My father worked again for the first 5 years. He worked at Babcock's and Wilcox. He was a draftsman because he didn't have citizenship papers for those first 5 years. And, we went to school and, I had, this is one of my other stories, I had braids. And then, this is my hair story. Some of you have heard it, I'm sure. But when I was in the third grade, I think it was, that there was a friend of mine, she was also in the third grade, Norma Jean Irwin, I remember it very clearly. She and I went to the restroom before our picture day, and we took down our hair and, put it all out, thought we were really elegant, and had our picture taken, and then went back to the restroom and I braided her hair and she braided mine. I don't know if it was very good or not, but it didn't matter. And the day went on, right? Well, if you're not used to this, you don't know that the pictures are coming. And the pictures came to my home, and my mother said, "You have time at school to play with your hair?" She got the scissors. Sometimes in my teaching career, I tell that story to the girls and they go, and I say, well, in my home, there was no yelling. There's no screaming. Nobody got spanked. It's just hair. It will grow again. So get on with it. But will you play with your hair again? I don't think so. So the next thing that happened to my family is that my mother, who was 46, my father was 51, my mother is pregnant. And all of you are well aware of all the crises that are going on today in the world about abortions and well-to-do. And of course, my mother was worried whether she was going to be healthy or not. They had, so many people had done so many things for us that there was guilt involved, right? As far as how can we manage this too? However, she ended up being healthy, and that's how it went. I could tell you more, but that's okay. She's the only one that taught German in high school, close to Wadsworth in Highland Heights. Her name is Barbara, because when you're in America, you do what the Americans do, right? My oldest sister is Annegret, Paul Helmut, Marie-Louise, Ursula, Jochen, Barbara. So, and then my oldest sister, she's not in this picture, but she gets married in 54, and her husband is an artist. She herself is an artist. She does Scherenschnitten. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's scissor cuttings. And she was a bookbinder by trade. So she married this artist. He's from Akron, and he has an island up in Michigan called the Lachino Islands, which is across Mackinac Bridge. So can you imagine? My parents were delighted. My dad had 2 weeks of vacation. That's what you get, right? 2 weeks of vacation at a certain time. And we rode the ferry across Mackinac, as before the bridge was built, and went to the island. The island is about a mile long and about a quarter mile wide. There's no electricity. There are some homes. I mean, there is a bed and there's a roof and it's not a tent. But my mother and father were in their glory days because there was peace and wellness and everything. So this is another story. It really doesn't go with this, but when you're a foreigner and you don't know what to do, you enter contests, right? So we had a reading contest in our school, and I went to the library by myself and sat in the corner and read 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 and won the contest. Of course, I thought maybe I'd get a bicycle. But if you're in a reading contest and you're an American, you know you're gonna get a book. So it was a little disappointing, but nevertheless, it was okay. And this is my grown-up family. Our son Joseph and Susan and Ursula and Michael and Jim. And this is our great granddaughter. Charlie had her, she just turned 1 year old. And I don't know, as Jim said, 22 kitchens, protesting and expression of self through art. I didn't bring anything, but this is artist piece that I did at one time, which has a group of characters that are made out of female clay. And one of them's blue and one of them's red, one of them's green, and one of them's, you know, and they're all different colors and shapes and sizes. And they're in front of a gate and the gate says no entrance, no vacancy. So I think about me as an immigrant, and I think about the immigrants today. I think about how hard it is. And I think about all the things that all the churches do wrong. And that's another one of my art pieces. It's not pictured here, but it's a woman and she has a sign and she says, woman's place is in the house, the White House. So we'll wait for that to happen one day. Didn't happen recently, but anyway, so that's the end of my story and I'm sticking with it. Thank you.